And I'll just kind of talk through this part.
And we're live.
Hello, everyone. We are welcome to Crafting Fantasy into Reality with Mithius. We are going to be doing metal etching today. And I realize that you cannot see it just yet. But what I am doing right now is cutting into the design to be etched. Now, what you're going to want to have before you start etching, of course, is whatever medium you're going to be etching on. This is metal etching, so you're going to actually be using, of course, metal. For this, we are using stainless steel, which we have right here. Okay. And the reason I'm choosing stainless is because it really keeps the shine to it real easy. It's easier to polish, and it's just wonderful to work with. Okay. Now, you're going to need a couple other things. Okay. One is, of course, a design. You're going to need a design you're going to work with. You're also going to need you're going to need a type of contact paper. For working with this, I like to use the vinyl. I'm going to adjust my thing there. Okay. You're going to need some, of course, some vinyl. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to bring down the camera so you can see better what's going on down below. Okay. And I'll just kind of pan into it, what's going on. Okay. So, okay. Okay. You guys tell me if you can see everything okay, if I need to zoom it up or sharpen it. How's everything look to you guys?
Looks good.
Okay, can you spotlight on me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Make sure it's focused in so you guys can see what's going on. Oh, nope, that's not focused in. Yeah, it's focused in. Okay. Now, okay, the coffee is not totally necessary, but it's something I'm using. Okay, so you have your metal. Okay, you of course have a contact type paper. In this case, where I am using the vinyl that you would get from for the circuit maker, which I guess is called Cricut Maker, for cutting out. What's really it's really good because it adheres well. It keeps it's almost seamless between wherever your medium is and the opening, so it's less likely to cause problems. Okay. Have a pair of rubber gloves, which are really good to have for obviously keeping out any fingerprints off of the item. You're also going to have alcohol swabs, or you can, if you want to, just have a bottle of alcohol and use a cotton pad for that. Please excuse me for a second. I lost my cotton pad here, which is not good because I will need that before I start. So, apologies. And of course, you're going to need an X-Acto knife for cutting out your pattern with. Okay. That is everything you're going to need before you actually do the etching. When you're ready to do the etching, you're going to need a glass like this. Okay. It doesn't have to have a deep bowl to it, just deep enough to dip your cotton pad in. Okay. You're going to need some, of course, regular table salt and water. Okay. If you have any of these at home, little shot glass is good to have. If you don't, you can use a measuring cup. The 1 tablespoon will be good enough for that. And again, my apologies. As I said, I was looking for the cotton pad, which should be right here. Oh, there it is. I just found it. Sorry. Okay. And you're going to have a cotton pad. Okay. You can get these dollar store. They're very inexpensive. Get a pack of about $25 per dollar. They're nice cotton pads you'd use for doing makeup or moving makeup with. Okay.
You're really quiet.
Etching. And so you're going to have an electric medium for conducting the electrochemical reaction that will be doing the etching. In this case, a battery charger for a car works just fine. Okay, I'll be using this, and I'll be also giving some good instruction on how to be very careful as you're using it, so you will not cause any accidents. Okay. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this. If you do not have the pads to use for this, what you can substitute the cotton pads, which I'm using right here. You can substitute some Q-tips instead, and it will work just fine. Okay. So what you're going to do first is, of course, you're going to take the alcohol swab. I've already done the pre-work on this before, so I'm just going to explain what I did. You can take an alcohol swab, and a good idea is to use the gloves when you're doing it. And you're going to take out the swab, or you're going to dip the cotton swab into the alcohol, and you're going to clean the area that you are wanting to do the etching on. Okay, part of the reason for that is you're removing the oils that are on there. That does two things. One, it gets rid of any blemishes, gets rid of any fingerprints, anything like that, because you don't want that on there. Okay. What you can do, and what the best thing to do is to honestly just make sure to let it dry. If you are super impatient, you can use something to dry it off with. Just be cautious, please. Okay. Now, if you can see right here, I'm going to show this to you really quick. Something I did before on here was a little bit of etching from before. Okay. And I'm just going to bring this up a little bit. Okay. Hopefully I'm not glaring too much on here. And I am, so I'm going to bring this back down. Apologies. We're getting too much glare off that, so we're just going to bring it down so you can see again. Okay. If you look, and I'm going to turn this around so you can see it a little bit easier. Okay. You're going to see you should be able to see the coffee mug right here. And the anvil I did from last time. Okay, this is etched on. Okay. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Once you've etched into it, you can clean back over it as much as you feel you want to remove any fingerprints or anything else. Okay. That will also show you how it's going to look when it's all done. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I am going to put on one of the gloves. You can order these gloves off of Amazon. They're not terribly expensive. I believe I got a box of 50 for about $25. So they're not terribly expensive. Okay. You usually have two gloves on because that way you're not getting fingerprints on anything after you're pulling off. And you're going to, and after you can either draw the design on, or if you have a Cricut or that type of machine, you can cut into the vinyl and then just apply the vinyl and peel back the parts that are being cut out for the stencil. Or if you're very careful and very fortunate, in this case, you pray a lot so you don't mess it up, you can actually cut out the design yourself, which I have done here, and or trying to do right here. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to say I am doing. I'm trying to do it. Okay. And hopefully it will come off somewhat well. Okay. You may have some hiccups. If you have hiccups, that's okay. Just don't let it discourage you. Okay. Because even even people who are really good at this are gonna have issues. They're gonna have hiccups. Only best thing you can do is just not get discouraged and just to keep keep pushing on with it. Okay. This was drawn out to be a rose. Okay. I'm gonna bring this up to me for just a second so I can try to get more of the sections off a little bit easier. Now, if you've done this with a Cricut machine, you'll be able just to peel off the areas that will be getting the etching done to it. And the whole point of etching is to actually create a design with white space or blank space. In that aspect, it's not what is there, but more what is not there in the representation of it. And in that point, doing electro etching is no different than doing glass etching. And so anything you can do with glass etching, such as with the stencils and such, you can do with metal etching, especially the electro etching. The main point to remember is that you are using electricity, so you must be very, very careful. Okay. As with any medium, there is the possibility of something happening. Do not worry if that does occur. Just be careful with how you're dealing with it. Electricity, you want to make sure that you're not having anything on you that can conduct electricity or anything around you that could. You want to be careful with using the saltwater solution that you're going to be using, because you don't want to cause spillage or cause an accident that hurt you or anybody else. So before you start, make sure your workspace is clear of anything that you feel could cause a problem or damage. And as long as you're able to do that, you're going to be able to have the results you're going to desire. One thing about doing any type of design using a stencil is to make sure that you have the little pieces on there that aren't supposed to come off. That's one of the hardest things to do whenever you're doing stenciling, is to make sure you're not pulling off the little small pieces that you want to stay in for the shape. And if there's an issue, you can always go back and put them back on. That's the great thing about contact paper, is that they come off, you can always put them back on without those problems. What the camera is not seeing right now is me cutting off these pieces. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, in just a second, I'm going to stop, and whatever I have got cut off, I'm going to do the etching to. It will probably not be what I have desired, but it will show what you can accomplish with the etching with your design. There. So if anybody has any questions right now at this moment, please feel free to ask them. And I'll do my best to answer. Now the actual etching itself will not take too horribly long. It'll probably just take you a few moments to do, and that's because of the fact, like any etching, you're simply going over a small amount area. And like the glass etching, it's almost like brushing it on. And you will, of course, be wiping off when you're done, so you will need a type of cleaning rag, one that you don't mind getting dirty and possibly throwing away. Mike's on. Now I do have to kind of say this: the design I am using for this is something I did find on the internet. I printed it out using my printer, and then I quickly and carefully used an X-Acto knife to cut along the stencil design on this. So while the printer did print out this, I unfortunately had to do the cutting by freehand. I do not recommend this. I recommend that if you have a Cricut or you have somebody that owns a Cricut, go to them and ask them for the help. It is wise and intelligent to do so. I mean, if you have the skill to do this without a stencil, more power to you, but it's not anything wrong with doing it a little bit easier. Okay. And here we have, I'm going to turn this a little bit so you can see how it looks. Okay. As you can see right here, the areas that you can see of the design right now are for the area right here that you see that is the outline is actually the metal showing through the contact paper. Okay. Now, I have taken the salt. Now, for what's going to happen next, I will explain this to you. I've taken the salt and I poured about a tablespoon into this shot glass. I'm going to pour that into here. Okay. Okay. Now the shot glass itself is about 8 ounces. Oh, sorry, not 8 ounces. My apologies with that totally. Okay. It is actually about 2 tablespoons. Okay. And so we're going to take that, take the water, we're going to put it right in here. Okay. Now you can use anything you would like to stir this with. For myself, I have this nifty little stylus I don't use, so I'll be using that to stir salt water with. Okay. Okay. Now, because I'm going to be plugging the battery charger in, and I need to make sure I explain this to everybody before I do so. I'm using a battery charger. Okay. Thereby, I am going to be using live electricity. It's going to be plugged into a house socket. Okay. That being said, I'm going to be very careful with this. We do not want any accidents happening. Okay. I have turned it on. I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background, but it is charging up. Okay. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is, this is very important. Okay. Most people would assume that you'll be putting a negative to the metal. Okay. No, you're going to be putting the positive to the metal itself. Okay. Right. And you're going to be putting it on something that won't conduct electricity. Okay. For this case, I have a piece of cardboard. Wood is also a good usage for that. Okay. And make sure that your wires are not anywhere where they can cause any problems. Okay. Right. Now I'm going to stir the salt water again because we're ready to start etching. Okay. You want to make sure you're stirring it well because it's an electrochemical reaction. Okay. The electricity combines with the salt water to create an acid etching into the metal. Okay. So we're going to dip a little bit in there. Okay. You're going to take the negative and you're going to put this onto it. Okay. Okay. There's two ways you can do it. Okay. You can go like this with it, or you can place this directly, just place the wetted cotton pad onto the area you want to etch. Put down this onto it and slowly move it up and down over it. And you'll start to hear and smell the etching. Okay. Do not get close. Keep your face away from the area you're etching because it is going to release small amounts of gas and you do not want that to cause any health issues for you. If you find yourself having problems with it, stop the etching totally. You do not need to be making yourself sick with this. Okay. Now we're going to go back and forth over this. So we can slowly burn into the pattern. Okay. You look at the paper, you're going to see it's getting a little darker there. Okay. Every so often look, make sure that your contacts are good. Okay. And I'm going to connect it right there. Okay. It is taking to the edge, which is good. However, we're going to need it a little bit, just a little bit more. At this time, I'm also going to readjust the positive connection because it needs to be on there securely and safely. I'm also going to re-dip the cotton swab. Normally, you'd be using multiple cotton swabs, but I only had the one left, so I'm going to have to make do with what I have. Okay, put that back down. I'm going to take the negative again. Okay, being very careful not to touch it to it, and I'm going to go back over it like so. Okay. Now, battery chargers have, of course, a little bars on them that show when things are charging. What that does is that also shows you when contact is being made and electricity is flowing through it. You can just kind of hold it. You don't need to go fast. when you're etching the metal. In fact, it's better if you go slow. Make sure it's getting a good contact and it's being burned in. Okay. Take your time. As I said, you want to make sure it's burning into the metal, because that's what's happening. You're actually burning into the metal using the saltwater electricity combination. You may see some smoke coming off of it. That's okay. Instead, if you have more pads, do not be afraid to swap out the pads at this time. Okay. When it starts to get black like this, you actually want to start to swap out the pads. That way you're making sure you have a somewhat clean surface. Here's the reason why. Look at that. See? That is coming off of it. Okay. And normally I would swap out the pads before this to make sure I'm getting a good etch to it. As again, if you're doing this correctly, you're going to hear the crackling of the etching into it. You don't have to hold on very long, just long enough for it to give you the results you want. Take it off there every so often to see how it looks. Okay. Now the metal itself should look differently than the metal that's on the rest of the sheet, and it does. You can see it. I'm just going to keep it on here for about another couple seconds to see if I can get a little bit more etching done. Okay. I'm gonna move this off here. Okay, I'm going to detach both of these from there. Put them back on here, making sure not to touch either one of these together. Okay. Now, if you look right here, you're gonna see how nasty this looks. Okay. That's from doing the etching. That's from burning into the metal with a saltwater compound. Okay. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to toss this into the garbage right over here. Okay. We're also going to unplug the power source for electricity, because we want to make sure we're being safe with everything. And you need to do that. You need to make sure you're being safe before you do anything else. Okay. The electricity is unplugged. Okay. That's safe now. I'm going to show this to you so you can see it's totally unplugged. Okay. No electricity went through it. Okay. I would not be doing that if it was not unplugged or not unplugged and safe. Okay. Now, as you can see right here, so it's got some of the solution right here from what we just did. Okay. You're going to notice that there's a difference in color between this and this. That's because this is not cut out and this is. Okay. That's not a big deal. Okay. Now, when you're done, you'll make sure make sure you dump out your saltwater solution. Okay. Now, we've just got done doing this. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take, if we can find it. Yep. We're going to take the other alcohol swab that we have left. Okay. Or we're just going to take our bottle of alcohol, dab some alcohol on another cotton swab. Okay. And we're going to take it. Okay. And we're going to clean off the top of our etching area. Okay. And just gonna dab a little bit. Okay. Just clean it off. Okay. Okay. Leave that right there for right now because we're going to use that again in a second. Okay. And we're going to take this because this got some salt water, so I'm going to clean it off of there. Okay. Clean off that with a piece of paper towel. Okay. Now, again, we're going to toss this in the garbage. Okay. Okay. Now, we are all done with our etching. Okay. We're going to do something now. We're going to actually peel off the contact paper that we used. Okay. Now, mine wraps around the back, and that was by accident, of course. But it does also make it a little bit easier to take off. See, I have it on my back, so I can basically just take it, pop it up from the back, like so. I'll need to forgive me for a second. I have to move this over the side. There. There. Okay. Pop it off there. And I can just flip this over like so. And I'll be able to pull this off the metal. Okay. And again, you're going to be able to see the difference between where you etched and where the rest of the metal is, obviously. Okay. It will probably not come off too easy because you just did a electrochemical etching burn into it, but it will come off. Okay. It may just take a little bit of time is all. Okay. Okay. Glove because I'm going to use my fingernails for part of this. You can use your X-Acto knife if you need to. It won't do anything for the etching. In fact, I am going to use this X-Acto knife because I do not want to have to keep using my fingernails for this. Now, depending upon how long you've held cotton piece down, is for how long the burn will be and how deep of a etching it will look. Usually you don't need to keep the cotton swab down there very long to get a good etching on it. It just takes a few moments. And yes, this is one of the most time-consuming parts of doing this is taking off the contact paper when you are done. However, when you are done, you're going to look back and go, oh my gosh, wow, that came off really easy. I'm kidding, of course, you're never going to say that. But you are probably going to, you will probably say this, oh, I'm so glad I finally got it all off. If you can, try to keep the pieces together, makes them pulling off a little bit easier. Okay. Okay. Now that I got the pieces off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this alcohol and we're going to clean over the area that we etched. Okay. So you can see how it looks. Okay. Okay. I turn this a little bit so you can see it. Okay. Okay. And then you can see that rose that we just did. Okay. Not too shabby, huh? And that is what you can accomplish with the electrometal etching. Okay. If I'd had a little more time to get the rest of the parts off of it for the contact paper, the vinyl, you would see that it had more definition in this areas. Okay. But even with that, it still looks really good. And when we clean up, we get it all nice and cleaned up and buffed. It's going to look incredibly pretty. I could actually just, basically cut this out and affix it to maybe a piece of leather or something for somebody. Maybe like an order with the rose or something. You can also paint around it or over it. It'll be fine. If you're having a mistake with the paint, you can just wipe it off with some thinner and stuff. At this time, I'm going to stop talking and just answer any questions anyone has. Does anyone have any questions?
Does the temperature of the water for the water solution matter?
No, you can use basically just about any temperature you want. I don't recommend ice water just simply because uh, it's going to, there's no reason to have ice water, but just standard room temperature water. I mean, this honestly, this right here, this is just a bottle of drinking water that I had sitting in the case. So I just grabbed one really quick. But if you get it out of the faucet, whatever temperature you have is fine. I think as long as it's not like ice itself, you're gonna be just fine using it.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you'd done experimentation or anything with it to see if different temperatures affected it differently because it should, collect more or less salt in the water.
No, the warmer it is, the more that I do will say this, Kate, and this just goes with if you've ever cooked or anything. Once you start to increase the temperature of water, you start to cause the salt in the water to dissipate more quickly in through the water. The problem with that is that when water becomes vapor, well, it does cause it to dissipate into the water more. As the water disappears, the salt will still remain. So you're going to have it dissipate into the water more. But then as the water starts to turn to vapor, it will be reducing the amount of water, ergo causing the amount of salt there to be more of a condensed nature. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You can actually, if you want to, when you're done etching, you can use a brass brush, and go over the etching. And the brass will come off onto the part that you've etched more than the rest of the metal itself, and can give a nice accent to it. As you can also see with this area is a little bit lighter than the area right here of the anvil. And that is because of how long I left the etching on those areas. I just did a kind of a light holding to the areas that were stencil. And so that didn't cause it to have the burn to it that created the dark look that's the one has. There are some YouTube channels that work with the acid etching, and they have different methods they use. Some of them use batteries. Some of them you can actually have shown that you can actually use any type of battery. They use a 9-volt battery, which works just fine for smaller pieces. It would probably have worked okay with this because it's not a whole lot of area, but the battery wouldn't have a lot of power to it. And so that's why I use a battery charger, is it has a constant flow of electricity through it to make it work. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts? Well, I know we didn't have a whole lot of people on here, but thank you guys for being on here and listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for showing. That's really cool.
I'm hoping to. I'm trying to work with more metal aspects, and I was going to try something else, but I had some things to do as king, so I had to do those before I could do anything else, and so I just stuck with what I had done previously. Like I said, though, if you want to do any type of stenciling or any etching, whether it's on glass, metal, whatever, and you do not have a Cricut machine, you can still print. You can put the vinyl into your printer, your inkjet printer, and it will print on the vinyl. The only thing is, when it comes out and you take it out, you must be very careful with handling it and cutting out that stencil that's on there. If you can do that and be very careful with cutting on the cutting out the stencil, you can actually be fine with just having to use an inkjet for now for making stencils. The vinyl, and the vinyl is honestly the best thing to use whenever you're doing any type of stenciling. I mean, I'm not sure where I put it right now, but a roll of the vinyl that I use for this, it's about, yay. Put my hands here. It is actually about this long, okay, and it's about you get about figure the core inside the core, the little core that you figure you get about it's about that big around, okay? And so, you know, if I use this paper, if I'm using this paper towel right here as a thing, you would actually get, sorry, bring this up a little bit. If you're using the paper towel thing right here, you're going to get about, say, this much. It's got about the same core for as paper towel right here is, okay? So you get about that much. Bring this up a little bit. And I'm gonna adjust the focus on this tiny bit. So that's okay, no big deal. You're gonna get about this much all the way around of the vinyl. So you get a decent amount. You can get like a 3-foot thing of vinyl to work with, and it runs about like maybe $6 or $7. And it's better than the contact paper you can buy in stores. It adheres better, and it just is a lot easier to work with whenever you're doing any type of etching, whether it's glass etching or metal etching. So I would definitely look into that if you're wanting to do either one of those types of artwork. So apologies, I took the glasses off because they're a little hard to wear with the headset on. But if you're into doing etching, there are some, as I said, there's some YouTube videos you can check out. They give a little bit better detail on different ways you can do metal etching, the electrometal etching. There are chemical etching you can do on metal, but you must be very careful with it because of what they can do to your hands. Okay. Any etching that you do, glass, metal, whatever, you're actually burning into that medium with something. And it's usually a chemical aspect. So be very careful with that you don't become injured. And I see that I'm almost out of time. So I'll say thank you to thank you for being on here with me and letting me share what I know, which with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.